This goes out to all men around the world. Wherever you are, whoever you are, it's gonna be alright, fellas. We got you.
It's KD Bo Show. What's going on, everybody? Glad to be here with you today. It is a blessed day. I mean, I think it's excitement in the air for me because anytime I get an opportunity, and I'm starting to tap into why I'm here, there's two significant times in which you remember. Number one, the day you were born, and then number two, the day you realize why you were born. And for me, that reality is becoming more and more. I'm here to help people, to impact people, and to be a blessing for the kingdom of God. So that sounded real deep, but I'm just real here to talk to y'all and make y'all feel good. How about that? In the studio with me, my boy, my partner in praise and crime, if we was over there.
Right.
My dude, Jasper Williams III. What's going on, man?
Hey, man, good to see you today. I like that, if we were over there.
If we was over there, yeah, I know you would have me there. And a very special guest in the studio with me. She was brought to my attention by a good friend of mine and said, man, you really need to hear her story. She is an awesome woman of God. She has the story of triumph. She has a story of an overcomer from the past pains that she endured. She's here to really bless us today. Let's just give a little background about her as far as I know. First of all, her name is Dorsey Jones. Hi, Dorsey.
Hi, Katie.
You good?
I'm awesome.
I know you are. Look at you with the little smile on your face. I got you. Okay, so Dorsey, you have a website, and if you want to check her out, it's stretchedbeyondmeasure.com, and that is also the name of your book that you wrote as well. Am I correct?
The name of the book is Stretched Beyond Measure, When the Angels Were Crying.
When the Angels Were Crying. My goodness, what an amazing title. From the age as far back as you can really remember, your life story was very, very interesting. It was very hard. It was tumultuous. And for me, as I was kind of reading up about your story, as a father, it grabbed my heart to know that somebody could go through all that you went through, but to sit here today as an overcomer, as an agreed professional, as the wife of one husband, as a mother of 4 children, and with the smile on your face that you have. Tell me about it. Let's go back to when you were 8 years old and when things just didn't go very well for you.
Well, let's take it when I was 2 years old.
Okay.
When I was 2 years old, I lost my father. I lived in Norfolk, Virginia.
I was born in Norfolk, Virginia.
That's the place.
I was born in Norfolk, Virginia. Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was born in Norfolk, Virginia, and my mother was, I guess she did the best she could for her children,
Okay.
but it wasn't enough.
Okay.
My mom removed us from Norfolk, Virginia. She took us to Bainbridge, Georgia. My first encounter of being abused was with my grandmother, my mother's mother, and my mother's aunt would beat us repeatedly every day.
My God.
And my mother dropped us off because she went to live across town to be with someone that she knew as a young person.
Okay.
She finally decided she was going to come back and retrieve us and take us to where she was living.
Okay.
But she left me, and she took my brothers and sisters with her. So
how many brothers and sisters did you have?
at the time, it was 6 of us.
Okay. Wow.
So she took everybody with her, but she left me. So that meant I had to endure more beatings and more physical abuse by my grandmother and my aunt.
My God.
When my mother finally decided that she was going to bring me back to live with her, I had a stepfather who was a womanizer. He gambled on the weekend, but he loved my mother because my mother had income coming in from my father's death.
How about that?
And he would fight my mother just about every other week, and he would put us out and we would have to walk the street all night long. So my mother got tired of that, and she decided that she was going to go and find us a place. So she found a trailer in a trailer park. We didn't have lights, we didn't have water, we didn't have food, but we had neighbors who took care of us.
Okay.
My stepfather would come back when he knew it was around the 1st and 3rd of the month, and he would tell my mother, you can come back and live with us. So my mom decided that she was going to go back, and again, the mental abuse that she dealt with him, she got tired of it. She left again, and this time she decided to move behind him, and that's when my life changed. When I was 11 years old, my neighbor on a Friday, he crumbled up $20 and he placed it in my hand. The first week he fondled me, and then the next week it graduated to caressing my breast. And then the last time the third time he pulled my panties down, inserted his penis in the inside of me, and he started having sex with me on a regular basis.
At 11 years old.
Yes, and then he passed me to his brother,
Oh,
and then their
God.
brother passed me to their father. And that became a way of living for me. I didn't know any better, so I just knew that the money that I was getting, I could put food on the table. I could help my mom turn the lights on and turn the water on. So my neighbor behind me started sleeping with me for $20. And then my neighbor down the street started sleeping with me. And it just became my way of habit. And I started walking across town, sleeping around with men so that we could eat and that we could have what we needed to survive. When I turned 12, I had already slept with over 50 men.
Wow, sis. Wow, sis. Wow. Okay. Let me tell you something. First of all, this story is rough, and as a father to hear this, it's amazingly rough. But without question, there is redemption at the end of the story. I want you to keep on listening. In the studio with Dorsey Jones. She is a survivor. And she is going to just continue more of her testimony. And I know for many of you, it's pretty rough to hear. But there's where we're going with this is important because the whole sex trafficking thing, and we're going to get to that. We're going to get to that part of it. But the whole sex trafficking topic is a huge topic in the news right now. What's going on over in Africa, but even beyond that. Atlanta, Georgia is, if I'm not mistaken, the #1 city in the United States for sex trafficking for young girls. And as men that listen to this show, I think the strength of a community is gauged by the strength of the men that are in that community. And if you really want to do something and want something to stop, then what's got to happen? You already know, Jasper.
Man, we have to take our rightful places.
There you go.
We have to take our rightful places. The thing that about her story that I go back to, she said she lost her father.
Yeah.
And not having a man in a child's life completely and totally defines their future, sometimes unfortunately.
You guys hang on. We're going to talk more to Dorsey Jones. She's in the studio. Her website, stretchedbeyondmeasure.com, is there. You can also get the book as well. And we'll talk with her next. And it's KD Bo Show on a Man Up Monday in the studio with Jasper Williams III, my boy, as well as our very special guest, Dorsey Jones. She wrote the book, Stretched Beyond Measure. She had a very rough childhood, one that involved a whole lot of abuse, physically as well as sexually, but her testimony is amazing. So the last segment we had, we talked about the roughness that you went through, and you went through quite a bit of roughness. And the thing that stood out in my mind, what I wanted to ask you was, what was the thing that made you just get through every day? Was it just survival?
Knowing that I had the will and the ability to survive, that I knew it was greatness in the inside of me as a little person. I knew that I was different from the rest of my mother's children. I knew I didn't think like they thought.
Wow. And you knew that at an early age. How soon did you realize that?
When I was 11 years old and I took on the responsibility of using my body to make things happen in my home.
So you knew there was something different about you. So by the time you were 17 years old, you you just basically did what you had to do to survive. Something amazing happened. You were on a merry-go-round, and your words were, I cried, man, so much I didn't want to cry again. Tell me what happened. You take it from there.
This particular night, I slept outside in the park because my mother never put me out of her home. I just knew it was something better than what I had.
Okay.
So I stayed outside in the merry-go-round, and that morning when I got up, I used the dew to wash my eyes to go to school. And I remember looking up at the sky, and I said, God, I didn't cry at all I can cry now. The angels got to cry for me.
How about that? And so even in the midst of all this, you were still going to high school, you're still going to school, and what have you? Was that a rough period? Were the kids teasing you? Because by this time, people had kind of known about your reputation around town, small city.
They were not teasing me. I didn't have what they had, but I made do with what I had.
Okay.
The children didn't know what was happening. My friends didn't know, but the adults in the community, they knew because, again, you're talking about a small rural town, and people pay attention. You know, they pay attention to what's happening. That you don't find a child 11, 12 years old walking the street just all the time. That was my habit. That was my routine. That's what I did.
So you eventually went and stayed with, was it some friends? Was it friends that you went and stayed over to their house?
A lady named Nene Love, she took me in her home, and she started loving on me. And she got mad at me one day because I put on a shirt without her permission. So she told me that I had to leave. So when she told me that, I started crying. I went to her mother's house. And her brother, he was much older than me. His name was Nanky Scott. And he said, don't cry. He said, as long as we have food, you have food. As long as we got a place, you have a place. And that was my safe haven. And you have to go back. The very thing that as a child that I thought was going to kill me was men taking advantage of my innocence.
Yeah.
But then when I went into this home, you had a man to love on me and give me something different with no strings attached, because he already knew that society had broken and took everything that I had from me.
And he had known because the word had kind of gotten around town.
Correct. Him and his brother lived there with their mother and their cousin, their older cousin, who was a female.
And after all of the abuse and the violations that you had received, not one time while you were at this house did any one of these guys violate you in any kind of way that was negative?
No, never.
God, dog, I tell you the truth, man. Okay. Jasper, you said something. Help me with that. But
Yeah, man, I see just, and I feel exactly what what you're feeling, and I'm looking at just how God designed this whole thing for manhood to work. That the enemy has always been after men. I mean, when you look at the Old Testament, we see that there was the edict to take out men, and God strategically hid Moses.
Yeah.
We come to the New Testament, we see that there was with Herod, the great edict to take out men 2 and under, but yet there was Jesus. Both Jesus delivered, Moses' name means the deliverer. And yet even in Dorsey's life, there is the fact that Satan was trying to take out a man from her life, which opened up the door to what happened, but yet God had another man.
how about that, man?
Or men to come in and to really be men, which saved this woman, turned her life around, taught her how to love and live and all those other kinds of things. When a man is a man, then we can have what God says we can have. And I love the fact that she starts talking about the will to live. Purpose and will gotta go together. And God used a man to birth the purpose.
Praise
he
God.
had the will in her, but he used a man to birth the purpose, and here she sits.
See, I think God's got to understand the power that we have. We have an amazing amount of power to break and destroy.
Yes.
But we can use that same power, to create, to cultivate, to build, and to heal. And that's exactly what happened. Now, of course, your story goes on and on and on. We're going to dig into it more. It is the KD Bo Show on a ManUP Monday in the studio with Jasper Williams and, of course, Dorsey Jones. Let's just say I've been calling her a survivor, but she is more than a survivor. Dorothy is a thriver. You've survived. You've been through that. But now you are thriving. And your story, man, is so compelling. And I said earlier that at the age of 11 years old, from really earlier than that, she was forced or thrown into prostitution. But let's change that, because an 11-year-old girl, what better yet, you say what your counselor or the lady that you talked to, she said it's not prostitution.
All my life, I felt like that's what I was, a prostitute, because I used my body for money. It wasn't until I had a conversation with my attorney, Alice Rodriguez, sitting in her law firm, that she had to break it down to explain to me that a child doesn't prostitute.
Okay.
It's called child exploitation, because my innocence was taken away from me as a child.
Yes, absolutely. So let's fast forward a little bit, and you finally decided, you know what, I want to go to college. I want to get a degree. And tell me about that journey, because you went to school, Morris Brown. You wanted to go to Morris Brown, and you tried 6 times, and it was unsuccessful.
Correct. Well, when I graduated from high school, I was told that I could never go to college. I would never be anything based on where I came from.
Jeez.
So I came to Atlanta, and the only option I had was Job Corps. So I went to Job Corps, and I heard about the AU Center, and I walked down to Morris Brown a total of 7 times. I was denied 6 times by this gentleman, and then I studied his habit. I knew that he had to go to lunch. So when he went to lunch, I went back into the office, and there was another guy sitting at the door. His name was Christopher Andrews, and he said, "How may I help you?" I said, "I would love to be a student at this great institution." He said, "What kind of grades did you have?" I said, "My grades were not good at all." He asked me where was I from, and I told him. He called my high school, and they had a conversation. He left his desk. He came back, and he said, "Dorsey, you could be a student." I didn't take the SAT. I didn't take the ACT. The only thing I did was take a placement test, and I got my results the next day.
And here's the blessing part about this. I'm getting goosebumps. Here's the blessed part. Christopher called us earlier, and unbeknownst to this audience, I'm going to play that call that Christopher had, just a little piece of it. And check this out. It's going to bless the audience. Y'all listen to this. What was your impression when she walked into your office, and what did she say?
All I know is that I saw this person in desperate need to be somewhere, and it wasn't in the streets. It was to be in someone's classroom to be the success that she is today. Well, listen to the radio at this time of day. This is so strange. I was in the car with a friend who was test driving their car, another student from Morris Brown, and I hear Dorsey on the radio. And this person didn't even normally have their radio on 102.5 at this time of day.
How about that? So
So
basically,
divine intervention is all out here in the mix. And as I told my friend just about the Mercedes, this is her season. I told Dorsey she was going to be a success. When she told me about the book, I ran into her by accident with another student incident. And she told me, and she cried, "I've been looking for you, I've been looking for you, I've been looking for you." She got tears in her eyes. My students are looking like, "Who is this lady? Why is she crying? Is she your daughter?" "Yes, she's my spiritual daughter." And my hat goes off to her. That's all I can say. Because there are things that she mentioned on the radio that I didn't even know of, because I didn't question her. I don't question people if they're in need of help. The last thing someone wants to do is have to explain their story and then get turned down at the same time. So I never asked her story. She told me she wanted to go to school, and I did everything in my power to help her.
Chris Andrews, hey man, listen, we absolutely appreciate you. Dorsey, just, I mean, what you want to say to him now? I mean, he's listening to you. I mean, he was one that kind of opened up that door for all this to happen. Talk to him.
Christopher, I just want to tell you that I love you with all my heart, and I thank God for you giving me the opportunity not only to better myself, but dream and know that I have purpose, and God destined me with purpose. God knew what I was going to be before my mother and father even conceived me. So I say thank you for giving me an opportunity to attend such a wonderful institute as Morris Brown College.
You know, baby, it's so amazing. A rose, when you look at the petals, you appreciate the beauty, but you never imagine what the rose has gone through with the weather and with weathering a storm and the thorns itself. That's your life, sweetie. You're still a rose nonetheless. And I love you with all my heart.
Isn't that something? I mean, so when you hear him talk, like, how does it make you feel?
It gives me goosebumps.
I know that's right. It gives me goosebumps too. I ain't even going front. So let's move forward. Now you find this strapping young gentleman who has been asking you for your phone number every day for a year, and you like, no, not right now. So eventually you ended up giving him your phone number, okay? And so you take him home. He doesn't know your full story. So you take him home to Bainbridge, Georgia, to kind of meet your family, not telling him your story, and just you pick up from there.
I took him to Bainbridge, and I introduced him to the family who allowed me to live in their home. But I wanted to do something different. I actually wanted him to meet my mother. So I took him to my mother's house, and in the process of him sitting there with my mother, I realized that I left something at the home where I lived.
Right.
So I went back to get it, and when I came back and we were riding back to Atlanta, he had a look on his face like he was just in awe. So I asked him, I said, "Carlos, what's wrong?" And he said, "Well, your mother told me not to take you to a store, to take you to the thrift store if I was going to buy you anything." And when he told me that, I told him it was something I needed to tell him. So I told him about my life and what I endured with the men in the community. And I told him that if he felt like he needed to leave me, that he could, because everybody had walked out of my life and I was used to it.
How about that?
But what he told me was he wasn't going to go anywhere.
So he was driving along, and you got to say it like you said it earlier. So it was raining outside.
It was pouring down raining, and he pulled over, and he told me that he wasn't going to leave me, that he was here for the long haul. he told me that I was a survivor, and I did what I had to do to survive, and he was okay with it.
Okay, now insert Jasper Williams, because this part right here, this part blesses me, because what he did and the three gentlemen that were at the house where you were that spoke healing into your life really basically are what men are supposed to be. The four tenets of manhood, what they're really supposed to be.
Man, I just love it. I mean, this is the story of redemption. This is a picture. Oftentimes theology is just that. Nobody understands it. We reject it. We push away from it because we cannot understand it. But theology ought to smell like life.
I like that, man.
And what I'm seeing here is the theology of what God means for man. And a real man. We started this show off when you first shared your vision and your purpose, and we start looking for the handlebars to put on manhood. A real man rejects passivity.
Yes.
He accepts responsibility.
Yes.
He leads courageously, and he invests eternally. And that's the reason why we are able to sit here and look at Dorsey, and why this audience is able to hear her voice, because a real man stood up and did what real men do.
And no doubt they didn't know, as the lady that picked Moses out of the water, they didn't know what you were going to turn out to be. However, they only did what they were supposed to have done, which is be real men, stand up and be real men. Sometimes you don't always know what the end result is going to be. That's not even, I venture to say, it's not even your business. Your business is to be what God designed you to be, and I'm talking to every man that's out there. Be what God designed you to be what he called you to be, and then great things are going to happen. And the world is about to be impacted tremendously because of what a man decided to do, manning up and being present and doing what he was called to do. And so I'm excited about that, and man, I'm about to shout. Okay, so
go to break.
So let me go to this break, and when we come back, we'll find out more about your cause, Dorsey, and what all you got going on and how we can impact you. And even a more specific question, how can we as men help you do what you do better? And that's what we're going to do. We're going to talk about when we come back, okay?
Amen.
Yeah. It's the KD Bo Show in the studio right now on this Man Up Monday with Jasper Williams III, as well as Dorsey Jones, who is a thriver. She came through a very tumultuous past of sexual exploitation. And I say this only to give you a mindset of where it was by the time she was 11 years old, had been violated by at least 50 men. But now to have this story of such triumph, to be a degreed professional, she's actually retiring from a job that she's had for the past 13 years. She is a married woman to an incredible man of God. And she talks about Carlos. I won't be like Carlos where you talk about it. She talks about Carlos and has 4 children. 6 is the youngest, and 18 is the oldest?
That's correct, Katie.
And 18 is the oldest. Okay, so you took a minute, and as I hear your story, you've been very guarded about who you share your story with. I mean, even your own husband or fiance at the time, or boyfriend, he didn't even know your story. What made you decide to come out to the world and tell them about your story? You've been on BET, you've been on CNN, various stations, and you're here today. What was it that made you decide to come out and just be open like that?
When I became a probation officer, I realized that there were a lot of young girls that were coming on my caseload that had experienced some type of child exploitation.
So criminal justice, I'm sorry, is your degree, right?
Correct.
Okay, go ahead.
And I realized that I would share some of my pain with them just to give them a glimpse so they could have hope.
Okay.
And as I began to tell my story more, I realized that the mother and the child would always say that it helped them. So I realized that my pain, that what I thought was my pain, was actually my purpose, and it could help someone get to the next level and come out of their struggle.
Let me ask you this as we wrap up here. Dorsey, you got 2 brothers here who are very taken by your story, and I praise God for you. I praise God for you coming out and being transparent and telling the world. What can we do in a very practical, realistic way? What can we do that will be able to help you further your cause or just what would you like to see us do from this point on? And you're talking to two guys here, but you got hundreds of thousands of men that are listening to you right now. What do you need from us?
I need for men to take their role and be men, be good fathers, be good uncles, be good brothers, be good neighbors, and then teach young men how to be men so that they can love our girls and our women properly.
Okay.
Because we are the queen of the earth. We are the essence. And we need to be treated like that.
Okay.
And it starts with the head first. God's word said that he created man first.
Yes.
So we look up to you. But we can't honor you if you don't honor yourself. And when you disrespect us, you're actually disrespecting yourself first.
How about that? So your father, he passes away at when you were 2 years old, but there's something in you or inside you that said, you know what? I know my dad, and even now, I don't want to get into all of that, but even now, you talk about how you still miss your dad so much, even though you didn't really know him at 2 years old, but just the idea of what people said about him and how he loved you, it makes you, what does it do for you? You tell me.
It puts me in a place where I cry, and I still cry to this day. But when I find myself feeling sad, I go into a closet, and I just cry. My husband, he'll come, and he'll find me. He'll know where I am.
Okay.
But my father, I didn't know my father, but his family told me how much he loved me. And that's all I can hold on to, is knowing that in my heart of hearts that he cared and that I was his baby girl.
All right. And what she said, how we can be better and how we can help her, is exactly what's about to happen.
Right. Man, Father's Day weekend, we at our church, and we're inviting Atlanta, Pastor Smith even announced this, you're getting behind it.
Yes.
We're wanting to give our wives, our daughters, and our sons, and our communities a better us. And so on June 13th and 14th, a Friday evening and all day on Saturday, we're doing this men's piece called the 33 Intensive.
Yes.
It is an intense, biblically based discipleship. It's designed to show a man how God designed a man to be,
yes,
without the pretense of church and tradition and, this, that, and the other. We going hard. We want everybody from the bishop down to the drug dealer. If you feel a call of God on your life and there's something in you responding to what Dorsey is saying, that, you ask the question, what do you need from us?
Yes.
And you know that God has designed you to be more and to have more and to do more. I want to see you there. We've got a limited number of seats. Our church can only accommodate so many. But if people want more information, 33intensive.eventbrite.com.
33intensive.eventbrite.com. You can hit me up on Twitter as well, at KDBo, at Jasper Williams 3.
Jasper Williams 3. Yep.
Okay, as well. And we will be putting out links and all this kind of stuff. It is first come, first serve. Unfortunately, I had to say it like that, but we want you to be a part of it. So, how do people get in contact with you, Dorsey? Because I'm sure people are going to want you to come to their churches, and you are going to churches, and you're speaking, and you are making appearances and stuff like that. How do people reach out for you?
Katie, I'm sorry, and Dorsey, I'm sorry. I got it first. It should be with us on June 8th.
Okay.
Yeah, so I know pastors are getting ready to jump on the phone and blow the horn, whatever. But let me just say, I want to introduce her to our church on June 8th. She'll be with us then.
Very good. Okay, good. There you go. Snuck right in. Okay, go ahead.
They can contact me at operations@sovereignmanagement.com.
Operations.
Sovereign, SOVRAN, management.com.
SOVRAN?
Correct.
Sovereign operations at sovereign, SOVRAN management.com.
.com.
Management spelled all the way out?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And also, is there a way to contact you on your website?
You can go to www.stretchbeyondmeasure.com.
Stretchbeyondmeasure.com. Want to say thank you. I love you so much for just opening up your heart and your soul and just blessing us. I will not take this for granted. I really appreciate it. And hopefully, you'll come back when we call you.
Yeah, I love you too, Katie. Thanks for having me.
I received that. I felt that. I kind of felt my love out there for a minute in the darkness, but you brought it on back. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hey, follow me on Twitter, family, at KDBo, and also on my website, kdbo.com. If you want to book me to be a part of any of your events to preach the gospel, which, man, this fire, I don't even know how I'm going to ever put it out. I don't think I ever want it out. This thing is on fire, and I want to share that with you. Just go to my website, go to the contact section, and book me to be a part of whatever your event is. And my wife is handling it, so, you know, if we got the time, then we definitely going to be there. And Jasper Williams, if you want to be a part of his church, I'm sorry, there you go. It's The Church. Tell us about it.
Man, we're just 20 minutes north of the city, www.thechurchinfo.org. Or you can send the word relationship to a text number 54244. Send the word relationship to 54244. I'm on Twitter, Instagram, all that kind of stuff. Jasper Williams 3. Love to connect with you. Love to see you on Sunday morning.
You probably should set up a short code for this 33. I mean, possibly for that.
You know what, man?
That's pretty good to do that, huh?
We're partnering, so maybe let's do
So
that. Let's figure out how
either
to
you
do
do
this.
it, I do it. We'll figure
You
it
do
out.
it. I do it. You do it. Okay. All right.
Love y'all, and nothing you can do about it. Final look at traffic. Here's Monique, and I'm out there.
Didn't smoke, didn't bet, but it's 5 a.m. and I ain't home yet.